Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be reviewing the Star Wars Mandalorian and Grogu 2.0 from Mafex. Now this is my first Mafex figure, and it's my second Mandalorian figure because I've done the movie realization figure and this one. It's kind of weird that I did a stylistic change figure as my first Mandalorian instead of like this show accurate one, but it is what it is. Anyway, we will be moving somewhat fast in this review just because there's a lot to cover, and basically this is a 2.0 release from Mafex. I believe the figure itself is pretty much the same because I think they got the sculpt and colors right the first time. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that. But they've overloaded this on accessories to match basically everything that Din Djarin has done. So it's pretty damn cool, and we will be getting into everything. I've watched all seasons of Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett and all that. I'm inconsistently a fan on Star Wars. Basically, I keep giving them a chance, but I don't think they always deliver, and The Mandalorian is one of their better attempts. I'm not super duper into it. I don't think the overall story is that good, but I like how it's told. And I like The Mandalorian as a character and design, so that's why I picked this up. Anyway, taken out of the box, here's what Din Djarin comes with, and it is quite a lot. So it looks like we've got a ton already, but then you can take out the back sleeve and you can see everything that this figure comes with, which is insane. So we've got 3 heads, we've got the jetpack, we've got a knife, we've got his gun, we've got the little rockets that come from his wrists, we've got jetpack fire effect parts, we've got a flamethrower for his right hand, we've got a fully posable Grogu figure, we've got a Grogu in a satchel figure, we've got a little ring part that is meant to hold his hunting rifle on his back, we've got a sort of energy effect part for his hunting rifle, we've got 2 hunting rifles, one specifically designed for his back and one to be held, we've got the hilt of the black saber, we've got the black saber with the effect coming out, we've got the Beskar spear, and we've got an absolute mountain of hands. It's a pretty cool loadout, honestly. It's really crazy. It's like literally everything you could think of. And to make this figure even better, he like looks almost exactly show accurate, so it's pretty crazy. But taken out of the box, here he is set up, and already he looks amazing. If you don't spot the joints, and if you pose him just right, he looks exactly like he does in the show, which I think is incredible. Absolute amazing feat of engineering and design, and I think that's also because the Mandalorian's design lends itself to figurines like that, because he doesn't have a face that you see all the time, and he's wearing armor. It's very easy to hide joints and design a figure in a way that looks like this. So I think it was a very good choice to do this figure, and looks so good. I love the metallic sheen, the chrome is just beautiful. There's also quite a bit of weathering on the figure, there's cuts taken out of the cape, as well as a lot of dirt and splashes on the legs, which is fairly consistent and looks quite good, especially since like this character would be fighting and getting his stuff dirty all the time, so I think it makes a lot of sense that especially that is shown in the lower half of his body. But all of the details are nice, it looks so good, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. If there's one thing color-wise that I'm not super happy with, I think that the fingers are a little bit too bright of that orangey brown, but I think that's the only major complaint besides a few small paint inconsistencies in the figure. But with how many hands we have and how this figure is pretty much all painted, I'm willing to forgive a bit for it, especially since the figure's not super expensive. I think it was something like 12,000, 10,000 yen, which is pretty damn cheap for all of this. But yeah, it just looks so good, definitely a beautiful show accurate figure. Here he is next to the movie realization Mandalorian, so you can see how they stack up, and the Mafex is in scale with most action figures, so like the 1/12 scale SH Figuarts, model kits, things like that, just fits right in, but the movie realization's a bit bigger. So here the Mafex is next to Mega Man X, here he is next to the Jada Toys Ryu, so you can see how he scales with other posables around that same sort of range. But we'll get into posability because it's one of the highlights and weakest points of the figure, but he's got a ball joint at the head and neck, and his head is very free, a lot of expressiveness for how you tilt it, and he can look up really far, which is good for flying poses. His cape is on bendy wire, and it's quite light, so you can get some pretty dynamic poses without much issue. His arms can move out that far unassisted, They can rotate all the way around. The shoulder pads are on a hinge, so you can move them out if need be. There's a elbow swivel, a bend at the elbow, not a super deep bend, but it's okay, as well as a hinge at the wrist. The chest armor is severely limited because of the structure and design, so you're not going to get any ab crunches or anything like that. It's pretty much all one solid piece, but it does have a little bit of give if you want to pull at it. There's a waist swivel. He can split that far. He can kick forward and back that far. There's a bend at the knee, as well as a thigh swivel, and a pivot and bend at the ankle and toes. So a fairly standard amount of articulation, not a huge range of articulation, but I think it's enough for this character. I would have liked something more in the chest, but it would have probably changed the aesthetic of the figure, especially with how many moving elements there are when you put all the accessories together. So I understand why they didn't do that. I did also forget to mention it in the accessories part when I unboxed it, but it does also come with a base. I did not use the base because I didn't feel like assembling it, and I heard the Mafex bases are so-so at best. So for any aerial poses, I just used a standard Tamashii Nations SH Figure Art style base, and that was fine. So Mandalorian comes with 3 faces out of the box, but they are very expressive. So we've got the standard Mandalorian face, where it's just the helmet. We've got a full-on alternate head for the head that has a flashlight on the side, which is just absolutely crazy. Like, you really did not need to do that, especially since these are fully painted and look absolutely incredible. And then we've got an unmasked Pedro Pascal style head, and for this scale, I think it looks pretty good. I think at a distance definitely reads as him, but when you look up close, it's alright. There's just spotty paint every now and again, but it's okay. But, you know, it's nice to have that standard face. You can get so many great expressions out of him, like, oh, he's a little bit bored, trying to be cute, oh, he forgot something at home, oh, he just doesn't know where he's going, he's just a silly little guy. Yeah, look, the benefit of having a character that's got a helmet on at all times, you can just do whatever you want with it and it just works. And of course we also have the little Grogu, and he comes out of the box with this sort of neutral expression, and it's very well sculpted and detailed. He does have some posability, so he can swivel around. It is a ball joint, so he can look up a little bit. The arms are pretty stiff, but they can move around. The hands can also move in there as well, I believe. And yeah, just very, very simple. You can swap the head with the satchel on, so you can make him smile, which is nice, and vice versa, you can change how he looks in the satchel. So that's a very, very well done figure. Very happy with how that turned out, especially since Grogu's effectively a glorified accessory along with everything else in this pack. But it's nice to have some representation and something alternative to do with this figure. But yeah, with all of those faces, you can get a good amount out of this expression-wise, but it's more so about the loadout. And this loadout is absolutely insane. As you saw, we've got every weapon under the sun, as well as like his jetpack, effect parts for that, and it's really cool. Now, for the jetpack in particular, because it's one of the first things I did, you need to remove his back plate and then slot in the new back plate with the jetpack attached. It is a little bit hard to do because he's got like that sash going diagonally around his chest, because that also connects to his back. But you can get it in there with minimal effort. It does also have a little peg on the side which allows you to store the Beskar spear, so that's cool. And it's just so well detailed. Like, this figure is just gorgeous. I think the only thing that's like a letdown besides like the hands is like the cape could look just a tiny bit more realistic, but that's only if I'm like nitpicking things. But you can get him fully armed up, so we've got his hunting rifle, we've got the Grogu satchel, his gun, just looks so good, so dynamic, so real, it's so cool. Now the hunting rifle is kind of annoying. To put it on his back, there is a slot in his cape where the hunting rifle is meant to be hanging over the cape, and there's a separate slot that you pop a ring around the hunting rifle and pop it into his back through that part in the cape, as well as connect a part around his front. That doesn't work. It kind of works, but it doesn't work. So I just put the hunting rifle under the cape, and look, that works too. Just like, it doesn't need to be on top of the cape, it's fine. But yeah, you can get some really cool poses out of this figure. There's some great variety of like weapon storage, just dynamic range, effect parts, everything. It's just so cool. The cape being bendy just makes things even better. You can get some dynamic shooting shots. The little missiles and the flamethrower on his wrists, they just pop off super easily. The effect part is already attached to the swappable part, so it makes it even better. And you don't need to worry about putting anything into like really thin pegs, thankfully. The hunting rifle is very well detailed and fits into his hands just fine. He's got so many different like trigger hands, holding hands, everything like that. It's hard to tell what's for what. The effect part for the hunting rifle is nice and easy, just slots on, no issue at all. There are instructions for this figure, and the only instruction they tell you is how to put the hunting rifle on the back, but everything else is sort of like up to you. Like the grapple hook, that slots into a very, very tiny slot in his arm band, and it's very hard to tell. I had to look it up to find out. But yeah, it's nice to have that as well. I think the rod's metal. The spear is hard to figure out because I didn't really know what hands hold it, because the holding hands for his saber are a little bit too big, but I managed to get it working. And it's nice to just have all these options. It's just so cool to have. One other nitpick, I wish the saber was like maybe light up or something like that, or if the colors were a little bit more vivid or saturated. But it is a great attempt, because that is very hard to achieve that look of the dark saber. Like, any lightsaber is hard enough as it is, but the way that they do the dark saber in the show is like, oh well, that's never going to happen. I couldn't get his knife to fit in his hands the way I wanted. I wasn't really sure which hand did what, and I didn't want to get it stuck in there or chip the paint, so there's the knife. Didn't really put it anywhere. But it's cool to have. It's just, there's so much that this figure has to offer. It's absolutely insane, absolutely incredible deal if you want a Mandalorian that's like got everything but the kitchen sink. And that kitchen sink is the baby carrier. It doesn't come with the egg carrier that Grogu normally has. I mean, you can probably substitute the Black Series one if you find it on sale, because that one's like a weird release, but it's always cheap because no one wants it. So like, I'd recommend that instead of like, say, the SH Figures or something like that, because I think the SHF comes with the egg carrier, not too sure. But as like far as a fully comprehensive Mandalorian figure with everything you need goes, I'd say this is like absolute top of the line, incredible figure. I have no interest in buying like others, because this has nailed it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you all next time.